The votes are in and the midterm elections in America are over. It looks like America is once again a divided house. President Joe Biden's Democrats hold the Senate, while Donald Trump's Republicans have taken control of the House of Representatives. With America so divided, we ask some simple questions. What do the results of the US midterms mean for India? And will a divided America spell trouble for the India-US partnership? The short answer is yes and no. But before we get into that, a little bit about what the midterm elections are all about. Like many democracies, America's legislature has two houses. The lower house, which is called the House of Representatives, it's also just called the House, and the upper house, which is called the Senate. Members of the House of Representatives are up for re-election once every 2 years, while senators serve a 6-year term. So when a midterm election takes place, all 435 House of Representative members and 33 US senators are up for re-election. If a party wins the midterms, it can seize control of America's lawmaking bodies and decide which policies are enacted. Midterm elections, as the name suggests, also occur halfway through the 4-year term of an American president. For this reason, they are often seen as a referendum on the president's performance in office. So, what happened in this midterm? Going into the election, President Biden's Democratic Party controlled the White House, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. However, President Biden also suffered from low approval ratings, principally because of his handling of the economy. Inflation in America is at a 40-year high because of the war in Ukraine and other shocks to the global economy. Many also feared that the American economy is headed towards a recession. Those fears among voters led many to believe that President Trump's Republican Party was going to win a landslide victory in the midterms. In the end, that just didn't happen. President Biden's Democrats performed better than expected and solidified their control of the Senate. However, after days of waiting, it became clear that the Republicans had managed to win the House of Representatives by a narrow margin. Now, this is a far cry from the landslide double-digit majority that some had predicted. So, what do these results mean for India? Well, first, some good news. Right off the bat, nothing major is likely to change in the India-US relationship. As former US Ambassador to India Kenneth Juster points out, both the Democrats and the Republicans support closer ties with New Delhi. India is a key market for American companies and is also a key partner when it comes to global challenges like combating climate change or dealing with China. India is simply too important for Washington, and vice versa. However, the bad news for India is that America will increasingly be consumed by domestic challenges. Despite the disappointing results, Republicans now control the House of Representatives. They have made clear that they intend to make life as difficult as possible for President Biden. Republicans are planning to launch investigations into everything from the chaotic American pullout from Afghanistan in September 2021 to business dealings involving President Joe Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Instead of focusing on India and the Indo-Pacific, the Biden administration will be distracted by petty political battles with the Republican Party. That will lead to a lot of questions about whether America has the focus, discipline, and domestic unity necessary to be a long-term partner for India. However, it gets a lot worse. Some in the Republican Party have even called for a tit-for-tat impeachment of President Joe Biden. Despite the fact that any such efforts will fail, the chaos and political drama will ensure that America's reputation globally will suffer. This sort of self-defeating political theatre is not new. In 2011, President Barack Obama was effectively held hostage by a Republican majority in the House of Representatives. Despite the fact that the Democrats held the White House and the Senate, like President Biden does now, Republicans then threatened to shut down the entire US government over America's national debt. To cut a long story short, the crisis was resolved, but not before it sparked fears that America's financial system would collapse and take global markets with it. It also did terrible damage to America's reputation globally. So that's one part of the bad news for India. A divided and distracted America at home is one that is less responsible and focused abroad. This is especially worrying given that the world is going through a major economic crisis, a supply chain shock, and a war in Ukraine all at the same time. Petty political fights at home mean that Washington will spend less time focused on working with India to stabilize the global economy, fight climate change, build infrastructure in Asia, and resist China's powerful military. Another problem for India comes from the people who have been elected on a Republican ticket. Despite the fact that many of former President Donald Trump's hand-picked candidates lost, his America First policy lives on. Trump's wing of the Republican Party seems unwilling to commit the resources necessary to maintain America's alliances and role in the world. Let's take Ukraine as an example. In recent weeks, the Republican Party seems to be questioning America's aid to Ukraine, which is currently fighting off an invasion by Russia. Prominent Republicans who now serve in the Senate and House and can vote on whether Washington continues this support seem to be against expensive commitments. This might become a problem given America and India's shared focus on China. Pushing back against Beijing's influence globally will take billions, if not trillions, in funding for the military in terms of advanced equipment and military bases. It will also mean that Washington needs its allies like Japan and South Korea more than ever. The Quad, which is led by India and America, has an agenda that deals with health, infrastructure, technology, and of course, military exercises. None of that is possible without America's massive economy and powerful military. The Republicans were once a party that backed a stronger American role in the world. However, President Trump and his brand of foreign policy is deeply skeptical of even American allies and wants a smaller role for America in global affairs. The wave of Trump-affiliated politicians elected in the recent midterms might usher in a foreign policy that is deeply worrying to India. India's fear will be that America will be a divided and distracted country until at least 2024, when the next US presidential election will take place. That is 2 years India, America, and the rest of the world cannot afford to lose.